Hey everybody, George Moorhead, Bentley Properties. How are you? So I'm here in, yes, beautiful Chelan, and wanted to make sure we did our Facebook Live today, and we're going to cover basically what is title. Now we covered this briefly, kind of sort of last week, but let's go ahead and get the formalities out of the way here. So first of all, George Moorhead, Bentley Properties. Been practicing for about 26 years. Have closed over 2,000 residential and commercial transactions. And today we're going to discuss what title is and what is in a title report. So first, if you can, hit your wow button. Make sure that you can hear us. Whoop, lost my easement document. Make sure that you go ahead and hit your wow button. Make sure that we can hear you. If you have questions, again, post them up in the upper right-hand corner, or feel free to go ahead and post them later, like we have a few of them here. So let's go through the questions first. Last week we had tons of questions that came out. Here were kind of the top four that arose during conversations that we had with clients and people just asking general questions. First, they said, how long is the escrow process? I mean, what is that and how long does it take? Well, the actual escrow signing itself can be as short as 30 minutes and can take upwards to about an hour. Now, there's a number of different documents that you go through at escrow, okay? So not only do you have your deed of trust, okay, which is what the bank has, not only do you go through all of the conditions of the purchase and sale agreement to make sure that everything was done correctly, but you also have the financial side with the bank, so your loan and things like that, that actually you'll sign, you verify, and then all of that then goes off to the bank. Now, it's a stack of paper many times about that thick, and you'll be signing a lot. So make sure you stretch your hands and get all set and ready because it's a wee bit of signing. Sadly enough, as digital as we are, today, we do kill a lot of trees because they require what's called a wet signature, your actual signature. They don't really allow a whole lot of digital signing, although that is now starting to transition. All right. The next question that came out is, again, why not a personal check when we go into escrow? Okay, because escrow is typically 2 to 3 days before closing, right? The actual recording process. The reason is that a personal check requires 14 days, technically, 10 business days, 14 days, 2 weeks, for the banks to process that check, meaning one bank to send, the escrow to send it to the bank verifies it, verifies funds, make sure that it's accurate, and then send it back. And then the escrow has to verify that nothing is going to happen with that check in the meantime, meaning that, you don't put a stop payment on it, that, there's insufficient funds, things like that. And so it is a process. So the simplest thing to do really on a short timeline is to do a wire, okay? Many banks charge $15, $20 to do a wire. It's simple, it's easy, it's instantaneous. Those are things that you're going to want to kind of keep in mind. Now, if you're a seller and you're able to sign, I guess seller wouldn't really much matter. If you're a buyer and you're signing well in advance, well, then yes, you could ask escrow, hey, can we just send you a personal check? And they're going to give you the thumbs up or thumbs down based on time, okay? So that's just a simple question that you can ask your escrow officer, not your real estate broker, not title. The escrow officer is the one who's going to be able to answer that for you as far as time, all right? Let's see, next question they had was, can you clarify an escrow impound account? Sure, all right. So when you have a mortgage and you get a mortgage, it's a little breezy here, my notes are, I gotta make sure they stay in place. When you have a mortgage, the mortgage company, because it's in their best interest, will actually pay your title and pay your property tax, or your insurance and your property taxes, because it's easier and it guarantees that they get paid. If you're delayed 3 years on your property taxes, the county can come back and actually seize your property. Then the collateral is gone for the bank. So to ensure that they are protected, that never happens, they pay your property taxes as a favor. It's actually, that fee is actually built into your interest rate and your APRs, so that's already covered. Now, The same thing with insurance. Naturally, they want to make sure that your insurance is paid. And so they will go ahead and pay that for you, again, being kind, right? And it protects their interests. So what ends up happening is the extra, anywhere from 3 to 6 months of property taxes and homeowners insurance that they collect, right? So that they have a head start from when they are due to be paid, all right? That is considered your escrow impound account. Now, you will get a statement typically every single month with your payment mortgage statement that shows here's how much you have in your escrow impound. We've collected this much for taxes, this much for insurance, and if they made a payment, they're going to say, hey, we made this payment, and they track that, and typically they do not keep more than 10%. On one of my statements that I recently received, they had a whopping extra $12. And so they had also just paid my property taxes that went up. Guaranteed, they're going to send me a note saying, hey, you need to add additional money into your escrow impound account, or we're going to increase your payments, okay? So I'll just probably send them a check since I like to keep my payment down, and we'll just leave it that way. All right. Why 2 title reports? All right. The reason there are 2 technical title reports is because there's 2 different agreements, all right? There's the agreement between a seller and a buyer, okay? And the seller on the first report warrants to the buyer that there is a clear, clean title, all right? The second agreement is between you and your bank. Now, if there is no bank, there is no other policy. But if you have a mortgage, then there's a second agreement between you and your bank. And what they're saying is, hey, I need you to verify and make sure that we have clear, clean title. And that title policy is more involved. There's more surrounding it because there's more at risk. Because again, your house is collateral, right? It's kind of like when you go to a car loan, your car is collateral. Your house is collateral. And they want to make sure, because, most of these home prices are getting higher and higher and higher, they want to make sure that they are fully protected. So with that, that's why there's 2 policies. One between the seller and the buyer, and one between the buyer and their mortgage company. Make sense? Perfect. Right on. All right. So let's talk about title. So title, the whole intent is to disclose, all right? And they insure around to make sure that nothing that at that point to title was protected. Now you might say, okay, so what could possibly be on a title report? And what the heck is it? All right, so a title discloses public record items, all right? And the biggest ones are like a mortgage, okay? Or if you have a judgment against you, and somebody says, hey, I want to protect my judgment, I'm going to secure it against your house, right? And so that would show on title because they would publicly record that. An IRS tax lien, boom, that would be recorded on title. Now, those are kind of the bad things, right? But then we have good things on title, all right? So we'll have good things like your easements. And you might say, easements? What the heck is an easement? An easement is a documented public notice that says, hey, I have access to come onto your property. And you might say, hey, I don't want you on my property. And I'll say, hey, time out. You need them on your property because easements that are most commonly recorded would be for like power, for your lights. If you want water to your house, if you want sewer coming out of your house, if you want gas or cable television, things like that, right? In fact, because I drew this fancy little sheet here. Now, I may not be an artist, but you're going to get the gist of this. All right, so first of all, this one here shows as a sewer easement, okay? And as you can see, it crosses the property. Well, without that easement, without that document saying, hey, I'm going to come in and give you sewer so all that bad stuff goes out, they're never going to be able to do that. So they need that right. Just like if you have down here, we have power, right? Many of you have seen like power lines, above or even underground. You won't see them underground, but you see transformers, right? But if you want power, you have to give permission for them to cross your property, all right? And what that allows them to do is to come in and give you power to your house. Same with gas, same with water, same with cable television, right? But there's also one other important one. And if we have a house here and we have a house over here, and then all of a sudden we have this access easement, right? And you might say, okay, well, what is that? Well, this could very well be a driveway. So if there was a house back here, I guess I could have drawn a house back here because we got the lots here, right? If we have this access easement here, that allows that homeowner or that property owner access to their property. Now, that one's not as exciting, right? Because you can't take it away. Easements cannot be removed unless both parties agree to it. Well, your utilities are not going to agree to it because they need to service your property, and that makes absolute perfect sense. Now, what's important about that? And you say, George, why is this one a little bit more important to me? Okay, well, let's answer that. So once upon a time, we had a transaction, and the homeowner, our client, was looking at buying this piece of property. And what we did, because this title policy during the buying process is always being updated, right? You're always getting an update, always getting an update. And it's that timestamp that is most important with that update, because the policy is in effect of that date. Because there are things that are being removed off a title. There are things that are being added on title, for your mortgage, things like that, that are germane to your transaction. But about 2 weeks before closing, one neighbor said to the seller, hey, I still want to be able to get my boat back here. Can you give me a 10-foot easement on your property so that I can still cross and get my boat back in and out? So they said, oh, that's no big deal. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that for you. So they drafted up this easement. Hey, neighbor A has access to on 10 feet of our property by 60 feet to go ahead and get their boat onto their own property. Well, that came through as an amendment. The senior title officer gave us a heads up saying, I just want to let you know this was recorded. And because remember, recorded, public document, right? We took a look at that and we went, whoa, time out, Mr. Seller. That is not what we agreed to. And you either have two choices. You can either cancel that easement, or our client's not interested in this because they don't want to give up 10 feet of their property that they can't do anything with, that the neighbor has access to go in and out at their leisure whenever they want. And so they ended up removing the easement, fair enough, and they went ahead and rolled things back, okay? But that is what a title report does for you. It lets you know what is recorded on a piece of property so that you know exactly what you're buying. In as much as you may have a neighbor that has a property dispute, okay? So one of the developers that we were working with, as we're going through things, we went, hey, this doesn't look right. I think their property fence is about 6 feet on the property that you're buying. You may want to look into that a little bit more. And of course, lo and behold, it was a little over 6 feet, and it had been there for over 10 years, closer to about 20. Well, that created an adverse possession issue because the neighbor said, hey, man, that fence has been there. I like my backyard. I'm going to keep that, and sorry. Well, now that gives us an indication because now it is a cloud on title. Now they're able to look at that and make a business decision. Okay, is that 6 feet going to really affect what I want? If you as a homeowner, you might say, well, am I willing to, I'm not buying what I thought I was buying. Do I need to adjust my price? Am I willing just to accept it? Can we negotiate something with the neighbor? How do we fix this? Or boop, do we just get out of the transaction? That is what the title policy does, all right? And it is your responsibility to make sure you're looking at that report. Don't just get it in your email or a handwritten look at it and go, yep, looks good. Don't. You must look at them. You have to go through them. And there is a name at the beginning and at the end. And like we use First American Title with Stephanie Cohen and Tim, and what they do is, Tim Daniels, what they do is they will actually also give us a quick heads up. Now, the best person to talk to is that senior title officer whose name is on that report, and there's his phone number is there, and you need to give them a call and ask them any questions that you might have, because once you close, it's too late. You've already bought it. So if you have a sewer line with a pump station underneath your driveway that you can't see, you just happen to notice there's a manhole there, and you think, oh, that's not a place for a manhole, but yet it's a high-pressure pump station, you want to make sure that you're absolutely looking at that and making sure that you understand the full ramifications and what the access is for that. Same thing. It's all there. Now, you might say, George, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It is, but it's also completely manageable. because most of this is normal stuff. There's no surprises. In fact, 99% of them have no surprises, all right? They're just standard things, but it's best that you're aware of them. Much like if you have a homeowners association or an HOA, and you have what we call CC&Rs to go with your HOA, right? Love acronyms. And that's covenants, conditions, and restrictions, right? So they're the rules of the association. Now, they're not going to have in the title report on the pages that you see, they're not going to have all of the CC&Rs, because many times they're 30, 40, 50, 100 pages long of rules, guidelines, restrictions, right? So you need to, and they'll have like a little recording number, and you want to make sure that you get a copy of that. They will gladly send it to you. Sometimes it's a little blue hyperlink. If you receive it by email, you click on that little blue hyperlink, poof, all of a sudden that report opens up, and you can read all of the conditions and the restrictions of the homeowners association that stay with the property, okay? And you just have to plan that those are the rules that you have to play in. But we can all live with rules as long as we know what they are, right? Now, we have had clients that have said, hey, you know what, they don't allow street parking at all. Well, I can only have 2 people in my driveway, and I always fill my garage with stuff. Where do they park? Well, they're going to have to park on the street. And that doesn't work. So they're saying, no, I'm not interested in that. These are things you have to keep in mind, right? Some may have that you can't have chickens, okay? All right, well, that's just part of the conditions, right? Those are the rules that you have to work in, and they will be clearly outlined there. So you need to make sure that you're looking at those. And again, just don't title report away. Give the escrow officer or the title officer a call. You will have their information. If you're working with an agent, they will be able to get you that contact information. Technically, an agent is not licensed to give you information on a title report. Sorry, they did not prepare that title report. They are not an attorney. Therefore, it must go to that senior title officer to answer those questions. Even an escrow officer is going to say, you know what, that's a really great question. You need to talk to the senior title officer. We're not trying to push you off onto somebody else. Oh, I don't want to answer that. That's not it. To get the best legal answer, you need to go to that title officer. And they're the best ones to answer because they can give you all kinds of history and background and everything else that you need to best answer your question. All right? Right on. Okay. When we talk about title officers and companies, there's all different kinds of companies out there. All right? We have the big ones. You've got Chicago, you got First American, you've got Stewart, then you have some smaller ones like Rainier. There's all different kinds of companies out there. Just make sure that you're asking the right questions, doing what you need to do to make sure that you're getting the proper answer. Title reports are not mysterious. They're not crazy. They're very, very clear, and they're blocked out in paragraphs so you understand. It's just like vesting. One of the other items in a title report is going to be your vesting, which is very clear. Okay, George Moorhead is taking this as a single person, as a married person. As a married person has a separate estate. We have different classifications. If you guys are buying a piece of property as a rental property together, you might be tenants in common or joint tenancy. That vesting is important because the title report only protects the people in the vesting in which it is done. All right? So make sure that your name is spelled correctly and or names, plural. And are you a single person? Are you a married person? A married person, separate estate? All depends. There's different options for you. But your agent will be able to help you that, and so will the title officer to make sure that that is done correctly and most accurately. And then, of course, if you're getting a mortgage, guaranteed, it will be right because bigger eyeballs than ours actually look at those, right? The last item that I want to cover that is on a title report is what's called the legal description. The legal description in a plat, you'll see, it's like, the lot, 3 of block 5 of, the crossings at Cottage Lake, right? You may have a large parcel. Let's say that you have an acreage parcel, right? 1, 2, 3, 5 acres. Then you'll have a kind of a meets and bounds, right? And they have a different way of showing how that property is described in detail. And sometimes they can be really short if you're in a plat, lot, and block, or they're like super long if you're on either commercial property or a large piece of property. Acreage property where you're going to have those, right? So make sure that you're looking at that, because that is the true legal description. And on the plat map that goes with that, it's going to clearly show your easements. It's going to show the property itself, and if there's if you have any type of recorded wetland or something like that, that will show on that report also. In a lot of your rural areas, some of you to either plat, add on to a house, you're required to have a wetland delineation. And that is actually recorded, and they take a look at it. Same thing with septic systems. Septic systems are required to be recorded, not only for the maintenance, but also to show where it sits on the property, okay? Because you're not allowed to drive on them and things like that. And it clearly shows that outline. And those are recorded documents. Those are going to all be in your title report. Much like if you have a sewer capacity charge, right? Newer homes, 15-year mortgage or a 15-year note, it's paid quarterly, about $198 a quarter. You're going to have these things so that they will disclose saying, hey, this property has a sewer capacity charge, all right? And it won't show the balance because that's it's a moving target, right? Each and every single month or quarter. But that is something that you'll want to verify, and escrow helps you with that because they will get a payoff amount, right? All right, so we've covered a number of things today, a little bit longer, but what a beautiful setting for you, right? And this way, I don't know if you're paying attention to me or the people in the water behind me, but we've covered title, right? Why it's important to read, who to contact, and really more important, what is in it and why is it important to you, and then why are there two different title reports? All right, if you have any questions, again, post them up in the corner. Give me a call, 206-391-7766. You can email us. You can post your questions here. We'll address them next week. But in the meantime, hope you guys have an absolutely beautiful day. Again, my name is George Moorhead, and if you have any title questions, escrow, give me a call, leave a message, and we'll get back to you. In the meantime, take care. Thanks. Bye-bye.